Just family on Thanksgiving, my dad said. I nodded, and canceled the $8,000 for their car repairs while saying, having you here listening to me means a lot. Watch until the end and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. I'm really curious to see how far my story is reaching. Just family for Thanksgiving, my father said. I nodded, and canceled the $8,000 for their car repair while saying, I understand. The words burned in my throat as I hung up the phone. Just family. Those 3 words echoed in my head, each repetition like a knife twisting deeper. I stared at my banking app, my finger hovering over the scheduled payment for my parents' car repair. $8,000. Money I'd worked overtime for 3 months to save. I'd always been the responsible one, the fixer, the provider. When Dad lost his job 5 years ago, I was the one who stepped up to help with mortgage payments. When Mom needed emergency dental surgery last year, I took out a personal loan. And now, their car needed major transmission work, and naturally, I was the one they called. But apparently, I wasn't family enough for Thanksgiving. My hand trembled as I pressed cancel payment. A warning appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this scheduled transfer? I hesitated for just a moment before pressing yes. For the first time in my adult life, I said no to them, and it felt both terrifying and strangely liberating. I scrolled through my text messages, landing on the one from last week where Dad had asked, expected me to handle the car repair. There wasn't even a question mark at the end of his message. Brittany, the Lexus needs transmission work. $8,000. Get it handled by Friday. As if I were an employee, not his daughter. I walked to my apartment window, watching the November rain streak down the glass. My small 1-bedroom place was all I could afford after years of supporting my parents and helping my younger brother through college. I never complained. Family comes first, Mom always said. But now I was beginning to understand that in their equation, I wasn't actually family. I was an ATM. The phone rang again. Mom this time. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I picked up on the 4th call. Brittany? Did you talk to your father about Thanksgiving? Her voice was sweet, that familiar sugary tone she used when she wanted something. Yes, I said simply. Good, so you understand that this year we're keeping it small. Just family. There it was again. Just family. And who exactly is family, Mom? I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. Well, your father and me, of course. Tommy and his new girlfriend Jessica. You know your brother's been going through a rough patch, and he needs our support. And your sister Lisa with her husband and kids. I gripped the phone tighter. So Tommy's girlfriend of 3 weeks is family, but I'm not. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Brittany, don't be dramatic. We just want a quiet holiday this year. I canceled the car repair payment, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. You what? The sugar in her voice evaporated instantly. The $8,000. I canceled it. But the car is in the shop. They've already started the work. Her voice rose in panic. We need that car, Brittany. Your father has doctor's appointments, and I have. I'm sure Tommy can help, I interrupted. Since he's family and all. You can't do this. We're counting on you, she cried. Just like I counted on being included in Thanksgiving? With the family I've supported for years? That's different, and you know it, she snapped. But it wasn't different. Not really. It was just the first time I'd seen the truth clearly. I was valued for what I could provide, not for who I was. I have to go, Mom. I have an extra shift tonight. Some of us have to work for our money. I hung up before she could respond. The phone immediately started ringing again, but I silenced it and placed it face down on the counter. Outside, the rain had turned to sleet, ice crystals forming on my window. I should have felt guilty or worried about what I'd done. Instead, all I felt was a strange, hollow calm. like the eye of a storm that had been brewing for years. The storm was finally breaking, and I had no idea what would be left standing when it passed. My apartment felt colder that night as I sat at my small kitchen table, surrounded by bills and bank statements spanning the last 5 years. I'd always kept meticulous records, a habit from watching my parents struggle with finances throughout my childhood. But tonight, these papers told a different story, the story of my sacrifice. I traced my finger over the first major transfer I'd made to my parents, $4,200 for property taxes when I was just 25. I'd postponed a trip to Europe with my college friends for that one. "We'll pay you back," Dad had promised. They never did. 3 months later, another $2,800 for Mom's root canal and crown work. 6 months after that, $3,500 for Tommy's college textbooks and housing deposit. Then came the mortgage assistance, $1,200 every month for almost 2 years when Dad was between jobs. The numbers kept growing, page after page. The memory of that period was still vivid. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. for my main job at the accounting firm, work until 6 p.m., then head straight to my part-time bartending gig until 2 a.m. I'd collapse into bed for a few hours before starting again. Weekends were spent helping Mom with errands or driving Dad to job interviews. My own life was on perpetual hold. "You're so strong, Brittany," Mom would say. "You don't need as much support as Tommy or Lisa. They're still finding their way." Tommy was 28 now and had changed majors 3 times before settling on a business degree he never used. He lived in our parents' basement, occasionally picking up gig work when he needed spending money. Lisa, my 32-year-old sister, had married well. Her husband's family had money, but she still expected Mom and Dad to babysit her kids 4 days a week and fund their private school tuition. And me? I was the reliable one. The one who didn't need anything. I picked up a photo tucked between the bank statements, the last family Christmas where we all seemed happy. I was 22, fresh out of college, full of dreams about the marketing career I wanted to pursue. I just landed an entry-level position at a prestigious firm in the city. 2 months after that photo was taken, Dad had his first heart attack. The medical bills came first, then the reduced work hours, then the eventual job loss. My career advancement took a backseat to family needs. The marketing job became just a paycheck, overtime whenever possible, promotions passed up because I couldn't relocate or take on additional responsibilities. My phone buzzed with a text message from Tommy, "WTF, Brit? You know Mom and Dad need that car. Don't be a bitch about Thanksgiving. It's just one day." I stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping my throat. Just one day. That's all it ever was with them, just one more payment, just one more favor, just one more sacrifice. They never saw the cumulative weight of it all. Another text came through, this time from Lisa, "This is low, even for you. Mom's crying. Hope you're happy with yourself." Of course. I was the villain now. The selfish daughter who finally said no. I scrolled back through my photo album to last Thanksgiving. I'd cooked for 3 days straight, bringing the entire meal to my parents' house because Mom wasn't feeling well. I'd spent over $300 on groceries, taken 2 days off work, and single-handedly served and cleaned up after everyone. Tommy had shown up late, eaten, and left early for a friend's party. Lisa had criticized the dryness of the turkey while scrolling through her phone. No one had helped with dishes. At the end of the night, Dad had patted my shoulder and said, "Good job, kiddo. Next year maybe we'll just order from that place down the street. Less hassle." I hadn't even received a proper thank you. My finger hovered over Lisa's message, tempted to respond with a detailed list of everything I'd done for this family. But what was the point? They'd never seen it, and they never would. Instead, I took a deep breath and typed, "I've been just family when you needed money, childcare, housework, emotional support, and everything else. But I'm not just family when it comes to actually being included. I'm done." I hit send and turned off my phone completely. The silence in my apartment was deafening. For so many years, my identity had been wrapped up in being the family fixer, the reliable daughter, the perpetual giver. Who was I without that role? I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out a dusty folder from the top shelf, my someday plans. Inside were brochures for marketing certification programs, a business plan for the small agency I'd once dreamed of starting, travel magazines with dog-eared pages marking places I wanted to visit. Dreams I'd set aside, one by one, as family emergencies took precedence. I spread them across my bed, these forgotten pieces of myself. Maybe it wasn't too late to reclaim them. Maybe saying no to my family's latest demand was the first step towards saying yes to my own life. The thought terrified and excited me in equal measure. 3 days passed in blessed silence. I'd kept my phone off, giving myself space to think without the constant barrage of guilt and accusations from my family. When I finally turned it back on Sunday morning, it buzzed continuously for nearly 5 minutes, missed calls, voicemails, and texts flooding in like a digital tidal wave. I ignored them all and made myself a cup of coffee, sitting by my small apartment window as weak November sunlight filtered through the blinds. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The constant weight of responsibility had lifted, if only temporarily. The most surprising message came from an unexpected source, the mechanic himself. "Ms. Anderson, this is Mike from Capital Auto. Your parents came by yesterday insisting the car repair was still authorized. Said there was a misunderstanding. I wanted to confirm with you directly before proceeding, especially given the amount involved." I stared at the message, a wave of both anger and gratitude washing over me. Anger that my parents would try to circumvent my decision, but gratitude that the mechanic had enough integrity to check with me first. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed, "There's no misunderstanding, Mike. I've canceled the payment authorization. If my parents want the repair, they'll need to make other arrangements." Within minutes, my phone rang, Dad's number. I answered with a steady voice. "The mechanic called you," he said. Not a question, an accusation. "Yes, he did. Brittany, this is ridiculous. The car is sitting there half disassembled. We need it back on the road." "I'm sure Tommy can help," I replied, echoing my words from days earlier. "Or maybe Jessica can pitch in. She's family now, right?" The silence on the other end was telling. "This isn't about Thanksgiving," he finally said, his voice lowered as if Mom might be listening nearby. "It's exactly about Thanksgiving. And Christmas last year when you all left before helping clean up. And my birthday that everyone forgot. And the time I needed someone to drive me home from my wisdom tooth surgery, but everyone was too busy, so I had to pay for a rideshare while still groggy from anesthesia." The words poured out of me like water through a broken dam, years of hurt finally finding voice. It's about the fact that I'm family when you need something, but not when it actually matters. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. "You're overreacting. We've always been there for you. Name one time," I challenged. "One time in the last 5 years when any of you put me first or made a sacrifice for me." The silence stretched so long I thought he might have hung up. "That's what I thought," I finally said. "So what now?" he asked, his tone shifting from accusatory to cautious. "You're just going to leave us stranded without a car? You have options, Dad. You could dip into your savings, which I know you have because I set up that account for you 3 years ago. You could ask Tommy to contribute for once in his life. You could even sell some of that sports memorabilia you've been collecting." "That's not fair," he protested. "Neither is expecting me to foot every major bill while being treated like an outsider." I heard him take a deep breath. "We can talk about Thanksgiving." Maybe we were too hasty. "No," I interrupted, surprising myself with how firm my voice sounded. "I don't want a pity invitation now. This isn't a negotiation where you include me just to get the car fixed." "Then what do you want?" he asked, exasperation evident in his voice. What did I want? The question hung in the air, and I realized I wasn't entirely sure. An apology would be a start, but it wouldn't erase years of being taken for granted. Money wasn't the issue, it was what the money represented. Years of saying yes when I wanted to say no. Years of putting everyone else first. Years of shrinking myself to fit into the role they'd assigned me. I want to be valued, not used, I finally said. And until you understand the difference, I can't keep doing this. So you're abandoning your family over one holiday dinner? Real mature, Brittany. His words stung, but they also clarified my resolve. This pattern would never change unless I changed it. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just not setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm anymore. I ended the call before he could respond, my heart pounding but my mind clearer than it had been in years. Outside my window, a few golden leaves still clung to the nearly bare branches of the oak tree. Soon they too would fall, making way for new growth in the spring. There was something poetic about that, the necessary letting go before renewal could begin. My phone buzzed with a text from Tommy, Dad's furious. Mom's crying. Way to ruin the holidays before they even start. I turned the phone face down on the table and went to make another cup of coffee. The guilt was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but for the first time, it was accompanied by something else, a quiet, growing certainty that I had made the right choice. This wasn't the end. It was just the first step towards something new. The week before Thanksgiving arrived with a cold snap that froze the puddles on the sidewalk and sent people hurrying between buildings with hunched shoulders. I was working late at the office, trying to focus on quarterly projections rather than the approaching holiday, when my phone lit up with a name I hadn't expected to see, Aunt Marilyn, my mother's sister. Brittany? It's your aunt. Do you have a minute to talk? Aunt Marilyn had always been kind to me, if somewhat distant. She lived 3 states away and visited only on major holidays. Unlike my parents, she'd actually remembered my college graduation, sending a thoughtful card with a modest check. Of course, I said, pushing away from my desk. Is everything okay? Well, that depends on your definition of okay, she replied with a slight chuckle. Your mother called me yesterday, quite upset about Thanksgiving and the car situation. I tensed, bracing for another guilt trip. Let me guess, I'm being selfish and breaking my poor mother's heart? Actually, I called because I wanted to hear your side of the story. Your mother has her version, but I've learned over the years that there are always 2 sides. The simple acknowledgement that I had a side worth hearing nearly brought tears to my eyes. I told her everything, the years of financial support, the forgotten birthdays, the constant prioritization of my siblings' needs over mine, and finally, the Thanksgiving exclusion that had been the last straw. When I finished, there was a long pause before Aunt Marilyn spoke. You know, she finally said, your mother was always the favorite growing up. Our parents gave her everything while expecting me to be the responsible one. Her voice had taken on a distant quality, as if she was speaking from the depths of old memories. I see the same pattern repeating with you. What should I do? I asked, suddenly feeling like a child seeking guidance. That's not for me to say, she replied. But I will tell you this, I spent 40 years trying to earn my parents' approval before realizing it would never come. Don't waste that much time, Brittany. After we hung up, I sat at my desk, staring at the family photo I still kept in a small frame. It was taken at Tommy's college graduation, the one I'd helped pay for. Everyone was smiling, including me, though I remembered being exhausted that day after working a double shift to cover that month's mortgage payment for my parents. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom, family meeting tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Everyone will be there. We need to resolve this car situation. I stared at the message for a long time before typing a simple response, I'll be there. The next evening, I pulled into my parents' driveway, my stomach knotted with anxiety. Tommy's beat-up Camaro was already parked out front, along with Lisa's minivan. The gang was all here. Inside, they sat waiting for me in the living room, Mom and Dad on the couch, Lisa perched on the armchair, Tommy lounging against the wall. All eyes turned to me as I entered. Brittany, Mom began, her voice watery with emotion, this has gone far enough. Your father and I need our car back. I remained standing, suddenly aware of how this setup mirrored a tribunal rather than a family discussion. I didn't take your car, I said calmly. I simply stopped paying for repairs I never agreed to cover permanently. Don't play games, Tommy interjected. Dad told you the car needed fixing. You've always handled stuff like that. And that's the problem, I replied, meeting his gaze. I've always handled everything, while you've handled nothing. Tommy pushed off from the wall, his face flushing. Not everyone makes the kind of money you do. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. I make $58,000 a year, Tommy. That's hardly a fortune. The difference is, I don't blow it on concert tickets and gaming systems. Enough. Dad interrupted. We're not here to attack each other. We need to resolve the car situation. Actually, I said, taking a deep breath, the car is just a symptom. We're really here because for the first time in my adult life, I said no to all of you. Lisa rolled her eyes. Always so dramatic. This is exactly why we wanted a peaceful Thanksgiving without the tension. Something snapped inside me. Tension? You think I create tension? Let me show you tension. I pulled out my phone, opening the expense tracking app I'd been using for years. In the past 5 years, I've given this family $42,836. That includes Tommy's college expenses, Lisa's wedding gift, 3 mortgage payments when Dad was between jobs, Mom's dental work, and countless smaller loans that were never repaid. The room fell silent as I continued, my voice steady despite the emotion churning inside me. I've missed vacations, postponed my own education, worked weekends and holidays, all to keep this family afloat. And in return, I get excluded from Thanksgiving because I'm not family enough. That's not fair, Mom protested weakly. No, it's not, I agreed. None of this has been fair. I've been your ATM, not your daughter. And I'm done. Tommy scoffed. So you're abandoning us because of one dinner invitation? I turned to him, suddenly calm. No, Tommy. I'm setting boundaries because of a lifetime of being taken for granted. There's a difference. What do you want from us? Dad asked, his voice strained. An apology? Fine, we're sorry about Thanksgiving. You can come. Is that what you wanted to hear? I shook my head slowly. I don't want a pity invitation. I want you all to understand what you've been doing, not just to me, but to yourselves. You've created a dynamic where Tommy and Lisa never have to grow up or take responsibility, and I never get to live my own life. Lisa stood up, her face flushed with anger. That's not true. I have plenty of responsibilities. I have children, a household to run. And whenever it gets too hard, you dump the kids on Mom and Dad, I interrupted. When was the last time you offered to help them instead of asking for help? She had no answer. I turned back to my parents. I'm not here to negotiate the car payment. I'm here to tell you that things are going to be different from now on. I'll help when I can, if I can, but not at the expense of my own life anymore. And if we need the help? Mom asked quietly. Then you ask Tommy and Lisa too. You sell things you don't need. You dip into savings. You do what every other adult does when faced with financial challenges. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at each of their faces, shocked, angry, confused, and realized they truly didn't understand. They had never seen what they were doing to me because they had never had to. Until now. I should go, I said, suddenly exhausted. Dad stood up. So that's it? You're just walking away from your family? I paused at the door, looking back at them. No, Dad. I'm walking away from being used by my family. There's a difference. As I stepped out into the cold night air, I felt something inside me shift, the weight of years of unmet expectations finally sliding off my shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, it felt like my own. Thanksgiving arrived with a light dusting of snow that turned the world quiet and white. I woke early, momentarily disoriented by the silence of my apartment. No frantic calls from Mom about basting the turkey. No last-minute grocery runs for forgotten cranberry sauce. No carefully choreographed cooking schedule to follow. For the first time in my adult life, the holiday was entirely my own. I made myself a cup of coffee and stood by the window, watching the snow fall. My phone had been unusually quiet in the days following the family confrontation. A single text from Mom: "We've figured out the car situation. Tommy's helping." Nothing else. Part of me had expected, maybe even hoped for, a barrage of attempts to pull me back into the fold. The silence was both liberating and strangely hollow. I had made plans to volunteer at a local shelter's Thanksgiving dinner, then spend the evening with my friend Jess, who was also avoiding family drama. It wasn't a traditional holiday, but it felt right. A clean break from old patterns. As I dressed for the day, I caught myself checking the time, calculating where my family would be in their usual Thanksgiving routine. Mom would be up early, prepping the turkey. Dad would be watching the parade, periodically offering unhelpful cooking advice. Tommy would still be asleep, while Lisa would be dressing her kids in holiday outfits for photos she'd post online with captions about perfect family moments. The reality, I knew, was always more complicated than those carefully curated images. My phone buzzed unexpectedly. Aunt Marilyn. "Happy Thanksgiving, Brittany. Just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you today." I smiled, typing back a quick thanks. At least one family member saw me. The volunteer shift at the shelter was exactly what I needed: busy, purposeful, surrounded by people who were genuinely grateful for small kindnesses. I served turkey and stuffing, chatted with the shelter residents, and for hours, didn't think about my own family drama at all. It was mid-afternoon when my phone buzzed with a text from Tommy, of all people. "Everything's a disaster here. Mom burned the turkey. Dad and Lisa got into a huge fight about her kids breaking something. Can't believe I'm saying this, but we miss your organizing skills." I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Was this an olive branch or just another attempt to make me feel responsible for their dysfunction? Before I could decide, another text came through. "Also, I took care of the car payment. Had some savings I never told anyone about. Don't tell Mom and Dad." The confession surprised me. Tommy had money saved. And he'd kept it hidden from our parents? I typed back cautiously, "Thanks for letting me know. Hope the day gets better." His response came quickly, "Doubt it. This family's a mess without you." I set the phone down, a complex mix of emotions washing over me. Satisfaction that they were finally experiencing the consequences of their behavior. Guilt that I wasn't there to fix things. Relief that I wasn't there to fix things. Later that evening at Jess's apartment, we sat on her couch with plates of takeout Thai food, our non-traditional Thanksgiving dinner, when she asked the question I'd been avoiding all day. "Do you regret it? Standing up to them?" I twirled noodles around my fork, considering the question. "No," I said finally. "I regret that it took me so long to do it." "What happens now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I've never gotten this far before. Usually, I just cave and go back to being the family fixer." Jess nodded, understanding. She'd witnessed years of my family's dynamics from the sidelines. "You know what I think," she said, reaching for the wine bottle to refill our glasses. "I think they need this wake-up call more than you do. You've been enabling them for years." "I didn't see it that way," I said quietly. "I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister." "There's a difference between being supportive and being a doormat," Jess replied. "You crossed that line a long time ago, and they took advantage." The truth of her words stung, but I couldn't deny them. My phone buzzed with an incoming call, "Mom." I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the answer button. "You don't have to get that," Jess reminded me gently. I took a deep breath. "I know." I let the call go to voicemail, then turned the phone face down on the coffee table. Whatever crisis they were facing tonight, they would have to handle it without me. The next morning, I woke to find 3 voicemails from Mom, each more tearful than the last, culminating in a guilt-laden, "I guess family doesn't mean what it used to." I deleted them all without responding and opened my laptop instead. For months, I'd been bookmarking professional development courses but never had the time to take them. Today felt like the perfect day to finally register. The marketing certification I'd been eyeing would cost $3,000, money I would have once automatically diverted to my family's needs. I entered my credit card information without hesitation. This time, I was investing in myself. As December approached, the silence from my family grew. No calls about Christmas shopping. No requests for holiday financial help. I found myself with an unexpected surplus in my bank account and free weekends that weren't consumed by family obligations. At first, the freedom felt almost uncomfortable, like a new pair of shoes that hadn't been broken in yet. I didn't know what to do with all this time and mental space that had previously been filled with family drama. Slowly, I began rediscovering pieces of myself that had been buried under years of responsibility. I joined a book club. I started a small side business doing freelance marketing work. I reconnected with college friends I'd lost touch with when family obligations took over my life. And I waited for the guilt to crush me, but strangely, it never came. 3 months after that fateful Thanksgiving, I sat in my apartment surrounded by textbooks and notes. The marketing certification course was challenging but fulfilling, pushing me to expand my knowledge in ways my day job never had. For the first time in years, I was investing in my future rather than patching up everyone else's present. The doorbell rang, startling me from my study session. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I checked the peephole, my heart skipped a beat. Dad stood in the hallway, shoulders hunched against the February cold, looking older than I remembered. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But that would be the old Brittany, the one who avoided conflict at all costs. The new Brittany faced things head-on. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "Dad," I said, my voice neutral. "This is unexpected." He shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting past me into the apartment. "Can I come in? It's important." I hesitated, then stepped aside. 20 minutes. "I have studying to do." He entered slowly, taking in the apartment with curious eyes. The study material spread across my coffee table, the vision board I'd created for my career goals, the absence of family photos that had once cluttered my shelves. "You've changed things," he observed. "I've changed a lot of things," I replied, gesturing for him to sit. "What brings you here?" He lowered himself onto my couch, hands clasped between his knees. "Your mother misses you." "We all do." I waited, knowing there had to be more. After a long pause, he continued. "Things haven't been the same since you stepped back. Tommy moved out last month. Got his own place, if you can believe it. Says he needs independence." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "And Lisa, well, she and her husband have been fighting about money. Turns out they were relying on our help more than I realized." I kept my expression neutral. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" he asked, a flash of the old accusation in his eyes. "Yes," I said firmly. I never wanted anyone to struggle. I just couldn't be the only one keeping everyone afloat anymore. He nodded slowly, the anger fading. "The thing is, Brittany, you were right. We took advantage. I didn't see it until you weren't there anymore." The admission stunned me into silence. When you were handling everything, I never had to think about how much things cost or who was paying. It was easy to just let you carry it all. He looked down at his hands. "Too easy. Why are you telling me this now?" I asked carefully. "Because I want my daughter back," he said simply. "Not as our financial support. Just as our daughter." I felt my throat tighten with unexpected emotion. "It's not that simple, Dad. This isn't just about money. It's about respect, about being valued as a person, not just for what I can provide." "I know," he said quietly. "And I can't promise we'll get it right away. Old habits and all that. But we're trying. Tommy's working full-time now. Lisa's husband got a second job. Your mother and I are downsizing, selling the house, moving to something smaller. I blinked in surprise. Selling the house? But you love that house. We love our family more, he replied, meeting my eyes directly. Took us too long to realize what was really important. I didn't know what to say. For years, I'd fantasized about this moment, my family finally recognizing what they'd done, making real changes, apologizing. Now that it was happening, I felt oddly unprepared. I'm not asking you to go back to how things were, Dad continued when I didn't respond. I'm just asking for a chance to build something new. Better. What about Mom? And Tommy and Lisa? Do they feel the same way? Dad smiled faintly. Tommy's the one who suggested I come today. Said he didn't realize how much you did until he had to do it himself. Lisa, she's still a work in progress. Your mother is too proud to admit she was wrong, but she misses you something fierce. I took a deep breath, weighing his words against the peace I'd found in these months of distance. I need to think about this. He nodded, standing up. I understand. We'll be here when you're ready, if you're ready. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. One more thing. Tommy found this in the attic while we were packing. I took the envelope, opening it to find a faded photograph. I was maybe 5 years old, sitting on Dad's shoulders at a county fair, both of us laughing while cotton candy stuck to my face. Remember that day? He asked softly. I did. It was before Tommy was born, before the family finances got stretched, before I became the responsible one. Just Dad and his little girl having an adventure. I was so proud of you then, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Still am. Even more now that you've had the courage to stand up for yourself. Took guts to do what you did. The photo blurred as unexpected tears filled my eyes. I should go, he said, moving toward the door. Let you get back to your studying. But Brittany? We're having a family dinner next Sunday. Nothing fancy. Just us. If you want to come, there's a place for you. No strings attached. After he left, I sat holding the photograph, memories washing over me like waves. The little girl on Dad's shoulders had no idea what lay ahead, the good parts and the painful ones. I thought about the holiday just past, the first Christmas in memory I hadn't spent frantically trying to meet everyone else's expectations. I'd volunteered at the shelter again, then spent the day with friends, exchanging modest gifts and laughing over board games. It had been the most peaceful holiday I could remember. The marketing certification textbooks caught my eye. I was halfway through the program now, excelling in ways that surprised even me. The side business was growing too. I'd landed 3 clients already, with prospects for more. For the first time in my adult life, I was putting myself first, and everything was flourishing as a result. My phone buzzed with a text from Tommy. Dad talk to you? No pressure, but it would be cool to see you Sunday. I make a decent lasagna now. Who knew? I smiled despite myself. Tommy cooking? Things really had changed. I set the photo on my coffee table, next to my vision board and study materials. The past and future, side by side. Maybe there was room for both, for the family I was born into and the life I was building for myself. Not as alternatives, but as complementary pieces of a whole. I wasn't ready to answer Tommy's text yet. Or to decide about Sunday dinner. But for the first time, I felt like I had a real choice, not between family and abandonment, but between unhealthy patterns and the possibility of something better. Something honest. The choice was mine, and whatever I decided would be okay. That certainty, more than anything else, felt like the true new beginning.